Now, this week's guest is a very funny lady who you might know from reality TV recaps, hosting on Virgin Media, or her own fabulous podcast, Flop Culture. It's the wonderful Fionnuala J.
Hi.
Woo. Thank you for joining us.
I love an applause. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm delighted to have you because I know you know your pop culture inside out. And I also think you have a particular soft spot for anything romantic, from Love Island to movies.
She's a sucker for love, girls.
That's
Isn't that what
it.
Danny Kane said? Sucker for love.
And planning a wedding as well.
Planning a wedding, yeah, in the midst of it. Met my florist last week, so it's all go.
You see, you're very glamorous. I didn't have a florist.
Okay.
I did it very low key in that we were only having 50 people.
Okay.
So I was like, we'll just do the flowers ourselves.
Yeah.
I was grand. I ordered my bouquet.
And do you know what, Vicky? That was smart because we are now eyeing up. So Keen is the XL and the numbers are going higher and I'm clapping like a seal.
Honestly.
More.
But are you having a big Cork wedding?
We're having a big Cork wedding.
then
We're having
you
two
have
weddings because
Are
again,
you?
this is where she can't compromise, girls. I wanted a small wedding. I wanted the small wedding, intimate, Dublin. But then I also wanted Cork because Cork is where I'm from. Cork is where my heart and mind and soul belong.
Yes.
So we are having immediate family at the Dublin wedding, chill, like very low key.
So you're doing two?
We're doing two weddings, yeah. That was a long-winded way of saying yes, we're doing two
Oh my
weddings.
God. So when are we talking? Are we a year out?
We are a year out from the Cork wedding, and from the legal Dublin wedding we are less than that. Probably
does that-
7 or 8 months.
Okay. So you'll be getting your little green book soon?
Get my little green
Oh my
book
God.
soon,
That
yeah.
was a fun day when we got our little green book 7.5 years ago
Yeah.
because I'm ancient. So you have it's taken on a lot now is to do
Yeah.
it twice. Will you wear the same rig out?
Girl, no,
Girl.
of course not. No.
Oh my God.
No.
Fair play to
See,
you.
the thing is, I reckon I am going to be so depressed after it that I was like, okay, just drag it out and have to. You know what I mean?
Drag the arse out of
Yeah.
it.
We're not having a wedding month. It's a wedding essentially a year and a half. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
I
why
mean,
not?
fair play.
Yeah.
And is Cian from Cork as well?
Cian is not from Cork.
How dare
he
he.
wishes.
You're marrying a man
He
that's not from Cork.
I know. See, that's also why I have to have the two weddings. To try and-
Right.
It's kind of as an apology to Cork as well. But yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
What film have you chosen?
I have chosen, of course, Notting Hill.
Amazing.
Classic.
Like, we did a pilot for this podcast and we had my sister-in-law stand in for our lovely guest, and she was very good, but she chose Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Okay.
So I'm delighted that we get to discuss Richard Curtis for real on the podcast because his work is very influential in the rom-com genre and problematic in many ways also.
Can I admit something terrible here?
Go on.
I've never seen Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Have you not?
Do I need to add that to my list?
Yes, you do,
Okay.
especially for someone getting married.
Yeah.
It's more what not to do
Okay.
and who not to invite
Okay.
than anything else.
Oh, I do need help with that.
Yes,
Yeah, the
so
guest
there you go.
list.
Cull that guest list down.
Okay.
I'll give you some tips on that.
Okay,
It's
thank
quite
you.
easy once you get tough with it.
Okay.
But Notting Hill was an absolutely huge film. And it was released in 1999, the same year as Runaway Bride, another Julia Roberts vehicle. But this is a British film, and on the budgets are in dollars. On a $42 million budget, it earned $364 million back.
Smash
Smash hit.
it.
It opens on Julia Roberts' face as the song She plays in the background. And it's just magic. You know from the first second of the film that this woman is a superstar. She's basically playing Julia Roberts
Yeah.
in the film. And the actual opening credits are all shots of her from real red carpets from award shows, which I love. And then
Love
she just
that.
was like, yeah, we're using those. Like nobody questioned Julia Roberts. So it's a Richard Curtis film. He was known at this point for Four Weddings and a Funeral, which he'd written. He both wrote and directed this film, Notting Hill. And it's a love letter to Notting Hill. That's where he's from. It's actually his Blue Door where Hugh Grant lives in the film.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he is not born and bred, but a bred Notting Hill boy. And he even named his production company after it. So you'll see in the opening credits, it's Notting Hill Productions. I mean, I love Stoney better. I don't know if I love it that much. But go off, Richard. Go off, sis. So yes, it is his kind of love letter to, I guess, the movies and to movie stars. And he said that the character of Anna Scott was inspired by Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly and
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
Silver Screen Sirens. But it is a very classically romantic film, and Hugh Grant is on top form as a foppish English gentleman.
It's so romantic.
It is.
Isn't it? Even on rewatch, I'm like, oh, the chemistry is just off the charts. It's really believable, even though it is so outlandish and like kind of ridiculous and something you dream up in your own head.
Yeah.
It's perfection. I was surprised how well, obviously there are tiny things about it that don't hold up well, of being a product of its time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, my God.
And can you remember when you first saw it?
I actually didn't watch it at the time because I was 4
off.
when it came out. So I think I came to it late, maybe when it came to streaming or something, or as I was, because it is one of those things of like, you need to watch Notting Hill. If you watch Notting Hill, watch Notting Hill. How have you not watched Notting Hill? So I think I was early 20s. I can't remember the specific time. But I just remember being like
blown away
and just being so swept up in it, in their story. And it was so funny. And I felt like it did media and stardom really well, because that's something that grinds my gears about any kind of media when they're trying to talk about media. It's actually one of the things that I loved about your books, about Reality Check. It's really obvious that you love reality TV and that's your bread and butter. I feel like it's so obvious when someone isn't into something and they're trying to write about something.
And it employs that old school rom-com tactic of using newspaper headlines and magazine covers to kind of introduce you to the characters. Yeah. So you see Anna Scott, Julia Roberts' character, on the red carpet, but also it then swirls a newspaper on, onto the screen, and it's like Newsweek, Anna Scott is great. So you're getting like the kind of magnitude of her presence straight away, and how she's this huge star. So in real life, she was an absolutely monstrous star. Starting with Pretty Woman, like obviously she'd been in Mystic Pizza before that, she'd been in Steel Magnolias, but Pretty Woman was the film that catapulted her to superstardom. And then throughout the 90s she made some interesting choices. She did Sleeping with the Enemy, which was a very sexy film that is ingrained on my brain because I was too young when I watched it. And she did The Pelican Brief. She did a few she did Michael Collins, in which her accent is not great, but we'll forgive her.
We do.
She's Julia Roberts. We'll let her out it. But then she did My Best Friend's Wedding, which is a real like classic rom-com, and that kind of put her back on top as just this rom-com star. And soon after that, she did, in a double whammy, Runaway Bride and Notting Hill. So they came out the same year, very different films, but she is this huge star. So straight away you're getting that. Hugh Grant, on the other hand, has had a funny few years at this point. He was arrested in 1995 for soliciting sex. And it was probably the first famous celebrity mugshot of the kind of internet era. Not even the internet, the kind of digital era. Because for the first time, that photograph was everywhere. Yeah. Do you remember? Like, I remember seeing that in the news.
I don't remember that as the thing.
Probably because you were 4.
Yeah, probably again 4 years old. I knew obviously again like he has this quote unquote bad boy reputation. I didn't know it was for that specifically.
Everyone thought he was. Yeah, everyone thought he was an angel after 4 Weddings because he plays this quintessential Brit who's foppish and floppy and lovely and romantic, and then he's actually a bit of a bad boy, and like he hates. I have a quote from him later on where he says, everyone thinks that I'm this really nice guy. I'm a bastard.
Yeah, but he's even kind of doing that in media up to date now, like when he's talking
100%.
about like being in Wonka and being an Oompa Loompa and just being like, I hate my life, I need to make money and all that jazz. But it's so at odds with these rom-com characters. It's so funny. I love that dichotomy.
Well, Richard Curtis said that he was his picture perfect romantic hero, so he very much made him that. So in 4 Weddings, in Notting Hill, and in Bridget Jones, even when he's playing a villain, he's still this English sexy gentleman, you know. So here's the quote. He says, I get very annoyed when people think I'm a sort of nice, diffident, polite English gentleman. All those phrases make me gnash my teeth. I'm a nasty piece of work and I think people should know that. It's enraging.
Okay, he's also the one saying gnash my teeth.
Yes, so it makes me gnash my teeth.
My gnashes.
I mean, what a gas man. But he'd done a few kind of duds. He did Sense and Sensibility, which was fantastic. He's amazing in that. Then he did 9 Months, which is a film about getting his girlfriend pregnant with Julianne Moore, of all people. Dreadful. Did a few dreadful stuff, but this was his big comeback. Yeah. Post Divine Brown, post sex arrest, and post with his new bad boy image. But they have him playing the nicest guy in the world, William Thacker. But he said that, Curtis basically made him. He made his persona, made who he is. And it was a streak of kind of unparalleled rom-com acting then for a while from Hugh. He did Bridget Jones, About a Boy, Love Actually.
About a Boy, Love Actually.
Then he went to America. He went to America and he did 2 Weeks Notice, Music and Lyrics with Drew Barrymore. Like, he became this rom-com guy. Yeah. So, I mean, playing against type works, right? Yeah. But in this film, he is a very nice boy who runs a travel bookshop in Notting Hill, and he's recently divorced, but he's quite young, and he seems like a good guy. Yeah. His shop makes no money.
Yeah, I mean, travel bookshops.
I know.
What?
Like,
it's crazy.
Like, that's very niche, shall we say?
So I started watching this and I was kind of like, is he like, I'm not sure I buy, because obviously I'm so aware of his actual real life persona now as Hugh Grant, that I'm kind of like, I feel so at odds with like whether I should fancy you and whether I actually do.
Yeah.
So the film was kind of starting and I was like, I still obviously bought into their relationship, whatever, and I had that memory of buying into them. But I was like, do I fancy him?
So this is the Hugh Grant question.
Okay.
So this
do you have
comes
like a buzzer for this or anything? We need to get on the soundboard.
He's handsome, sure. He's nice floppy hair and he wears nice shirts. I don't really understand why everyone is devastated by him, but maybe it's that he's so vanilla and like you can imprint upon him.
No, do you know when it crystallised in my mind for me? It's the scene where he's watching the film with Spike on the couch. They're after just initially encountering
and
each
he's
other.
kind of sitting forward with his glasses on.
Yeah, and he's watching that absolute, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
He's watching that absolute dog shit film that she's in. That's like
dog shit, I like that.
And he's like, I'm going to propose to you in 7 seconds or 7 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And he has the glasses on.
Yeah, the glasses are good. He wears them in 4 Weddings quite a lot as well.
Oh,
okay, you really like him.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It's that and the hair height. I think it's
very voluminous hair.
I did an episode recently of Flap Culture that was looking at like the psychology around beauty standards and why we're attracted to kind of certain people or whatever. And I think it's just perfect facial hairography, symmetry or something. I don't know. It just did something to me in that moment. I was like,
See, I don't think I've ever really truly maybe as Daniel Cleaver and Bridget Jones, because he's a bad boy. He's like, look at you in that filthy skirt, you slapper. Like, I'm like, oh. But yeah, he is kind of, for me, he's just kind of like, you could put any sort of like fantasy onto him and it fits. You know what I mean? He's a demon when he takes off his glasses.
If you push like white British brunette man into ChatGPT, it would just vomit out Hugh Grant,
100%.
You know, so.
And I do get maybe Sense and Sensibility is stuck in my mind because he wears very, very tight like jodhpurs and that as well. You can imagine him doing a Mr. Darcy emerging from the lake, you know, all wet. So there you go. We seem to like you anyway. That's good. But their meet cute is actually very cute in this film. So she's browsing in his travel bookshop. He gives her a double take because he's like, is that... No, couldn't be. And I was trying to think who that would be nowadays that would be super famous on site, but you wouldn't believe it was them. And I thought maybe like Margot Robbie.
I was trying to consider this as well because obviously she's going around with like no security at this point, and
she's wearing relatively and a beret.
Yeah, and is relatively incognito. And you're trying to think, I think Margot's kind of too famous after Barbie now.
But like Anna Scott's meant to be very fucking famous as
well.
Like
true.
If Margot had on a beret and sunglasses, I don't think you'd be like, there's a hot lady, but I don't think you'd be like, there's Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think like Florence Pugh is too distinctive. I just think she's getting away with it. Yeah,
you're trying to think like every girl kind of vibe. I was kind of
obviously
thinking...
a rockin' bod and like gorgeous hair. Her hair's all feathered out the back of her beret. Yeah. She's stunning.
I was trying to think maybe, I feel like she's not famous enough, and I don't say that as a critique, I just say that as a fact. Who was the actor in Normal People, the girl?
Oh, Daisy Edgar Jones. Yeah. If I could see her fringe, I'd cop her.
Yeah.
She's great fringe.
Yeah.
But I feel like Anna's she's incognito enough and she's rifling through the travel books and he's like, don't buy that one, it's shit. And she's like, okay, weird man, isn't it your job to tell me this? And she's kind of cunty to him.
Yeah.
Like she is in the beginning. She's like, go away.
She has absolutely no time.
Yeah. But like she's also kind of smirking at him. Like there's a funny scene when he catches a robber basically in the back of the shop and she's kind of like, this guy is gas.
I forgot that was Dylan Moran as well.
Yes.
It's like, this is gas. And he again plays creepy freak so well.
Perfect. And she's like, I don't know if I knew why she was so into him after this initial encounter, but she seemed to be. But anyway, she leaves the store. He's like, you'll never guess who was just in here. Walks out to get himself an orange juice because... I don't know why he wants an orange juice.
But had the other guy that runs the bookshop also not just brought him a cappuccino?
Yes, but they were
Why are you drinking the two of them at once?
Yeah, that is a recipe for disaster. That's true.
Your teeth, man.
Your bowels.
Oh.
Jesus.
No.
Yeah.
Though actually, isn't it a thing that some people do have like orange
morning
juice in
coffee?
Their coffee? They mix them. I don't know. Not me. Freak behaviour.
Weirdos.
Someone does do that.
Okay. Well, he spills the orange juice all over Anna Scott.
Yeah.
And it looks like curry sauce. It's thick and gloopy.
Yeah.
And she's like, fuck, you're a fucking bastard. I'm wearing a white top. Now, this part perplexes me. He's like, my apartment is just there. You can come and clean up.
Ear.
So she's
999. Get away from me.
Yeah.
What? And she's like, well, how far?
Yeah. And he's like, that blue door there. And she's like, okay, I'll go into your fucking house. Like, what?
Stranger danger.
Like. Where he lives with a half man, half beast called Spike, who is
in love,
like an absolute gas fucker, but like
so good.
Kind of terrifying as well.
Yeah.
Like he is very lupine. He could be a werewolf. But she goes into the gaff. He's trying to clean off her boobs, and she's like, "Get your hands off me."
Get your hands off me, but also let me come to your house, stranger.
And she goes upstairs, she gets changed into whatever she's bought, which is like a crop top. It was actually very like 2024. It was like a bedazzled crop top and skirt combo.
Yeah, a lot of the fashion hasn't, like it's very of the time. Yeah. But like a lot of people I feel like are wearing it now. Like it's very classic 90s, you know?
She's when she meets him, she's wearing a leather blazer. I bought a leather blazer and my husband laughed and told me I looked like his dad's friend Gag. Like literally was like, oh my God, you're wearing Gag's jacket. Like, I was like, no, it's actually really cool what you're talking about. But yeah, it has kind of cycled around. Like I don't think we're quite at the wearing berets point. Like seriously.
I don't know. Well, not me, but not my fat head. But
we live in Ireland.
Would.
Like people would say like Pepe Le Pew if you wore a beret still. But anyway, she gets all cleaned up. For some reason, she lays a sloppy kiss on him at this point.
Which, bizarre. When I was watching this back, I didn't realise it happened. That was one of the things that I'd forgotten. But on this rewatch, I was like, it's mad that it accelerates as quickly as it does. And again, you're trying to figure out why she would be doing this. Because look, again, we've answered the Hugh Grant question. Do we fancy him? I do. But even at this like juncture, I'm kind of like, what?
I think it's because he's treating her as a normal person and she's never treated as a normal person. Like he's talking absolute shite about apricots and honey, and like he's keeping up this kind of steady routine in his brain of just keep talking, don't leave awkward silences. And I think he says to her like, it was lovely to meet you. He's very genuine, and I feel like she's so used to being looked at
and pandered to.
But not actually like being seen. Well, that's very deep, but it's true. She's always being looked at. But no, like he seems to actually see her as a person. Yeah. Which is
and doesn't
nice.
he say then later on about the ex-wife that it was like she could see right through him?
Yes. So very good.
Parallels.
Very good. So again, I'm not like sure why she lays the kiss on him, but she does, and it's nice. And
moment of madness.
Yeah. And then she kind of goes away and he's just like watching her movies.
Yeah.
And mad about her.
Yeah.
But doesn't really think that he could stand a chance, because why would a random man think he could stand a chance with Julia Roberts? Fair enough.
No man should.
No man should.
Don't ever do that.
Even though she did marry a normal lad in the end.
Yeah, which I am kind of obsessed with.
Yeah, and they're still together. Fair play. But that was after she left a trail of famous broken hearts in her wake.
She did right.
From Kiefer Sutherland, Lyle Lovett.
Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt. She had a great run of it. So
and then she said, back to the normies with me.
Yeah. But he's basically like, I guess he's mooning over her afterwards. He's like watching her new movie. And then he gets a phone call. And Spike says some girl called Anna called. She's staying at the Ritz. And he goes, okay. So he rings her. And then, I don't know, have you ever done a junket yourself?
Yes. But that's also why I love this movie, because having worked in media since and having like just knowing how bang on they got it.
So he
good.
Thinks that he's going to meet the superstar at the Ritz for a date, I gather. He brings her flowers. It's all very cute. Oh. It's actually a junket for her new film, and he's there representing, as he says, Horse and Hound. And it's a film set in space, and they just have this really charming, like, this is when Hugh Grant is top-notch bumbling. Yeah, like he's literally trying to come up with a reason for him being
funny.
There.
It's so still funny all these years later.
Anyone who's ever done a junket, which is few people, but you and I know that it's very accurate. You're just being shunted around from room to room. You don't know who you're going to be talking to next. You're waiting to, like, I remember Brie Larson once stood me up on a Sunday in London, and I've never forgiven her. I fully took again her.
Fair.
And I've never, so I'm just like, you're one. I missed a rugby match because of her. But that happens.
Damn you, Brie.
They're very unusual scenarios. And you can't imagine, like, in the right instance.
Yeah.
Giving someone the glad eye, even if they're a celeb, it could play off.
But you also have, like, for any of those interviews, you usually have
four
max.
publicists.
Well, that, but also you also have like max 10 minutes. You've such a and that's generous. You've such a short amount of time.
I mean, I think that's now. Back in the day, you used to have more.
Did you used to?
Yeah. I remember being in a room with Will Ferrell for a good 30 minutes.
What?
Talking about Anchorman 2 of all things.
Like the last junket I did, I think, was for Avatar 2, lol, and it was Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington, and we had like 8 minutes.
Wow. Was it on camera though?
It was on camera. Yeah, and they were very nice.
Print,
they were very nice.
You get a bit more, but like it is so perfectly done.
Yeah.
And anyway, he has to bumble his way around the junket, and he's very awkward and embarrassed,
pretending he's an equestrian journalist.
Yes,
like it's just why aren't there any horses in the film? The film is set in space. Perfect. Like it's
absolutely
just
perfect.
Again, especially as someone who's like worked as a journalist, and maybe you end up something and you're not fully prepared, and you get caught out on a question by the talent or whatever. Mortifying.
But she's loving it because
she's living.
Because she's so used to being bored out of her box, literally answering the same questions all day. So she finds it so charming and gorgeous. So eventually, at the end of the day, she was wearing a very interesting tie, suit and tie.
Sorry, I was going to say the outfit for the junket, slay. Like, could I wear it? No, she killed it.
I think you could.
No, I don't
a
think
men's suit with a lilac shirt and tie.
No, I think it's only Julia Roberts. I massively appreciate that.
Please try it on television.
Okay.
For me.
I should have come dressed.
You should have theme dressed.
Next time.
But she's at the end of the junket, she's taking out her ponytail, she's taking off her tie. She's like, I'm so sorry about that. And he's like, I'd do 20 junkets for you because you're a perfect woman. Yeah. And they actually get to have a date. She basically invites herself out with them that night. And he's like, bollocks, I have to go for dinner at my sister's house. And she's like, okay. And I feel like that's a very American thing to do. They're just like, I'll be your date.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't have a date.
This literally isn't how that works.
And what ensues is one of my favourite scenes in romantic comedy history, where he takes the super famous actress to his sister's house, or his friend's house, for his sister's birthday dinner. And some of them recognise her, some of them don't. And it's just amazing. She's wearing this iconic kind of silk printed jacket, and she has her hair in two little plaits, and she's barely wearing any makeup, and she looks insane. Still kind of cliche though. She's still very standoffish, which I get because she's super famous, but at the same time I'm like, you're in these people's gaff, like chill out a bit.
There is also something as well about totally forgot Hugh Bonneville was in this film, by the way, and then when he turns up I was like, oh, you are hot.
Bernie.
I had very
hot?
Yeah.
Jesus.
No.
No, he's the rosy cheeked kind of city boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like,
you like an English boy, don't you?
Jesus Christ. This has been an illuminating conversation for me.
Is Made in Chelsea like porn for you?
Oh, what? No.
Oh, okay.
No. I don't know. Do you know when you're not expecting to see someone, or like you've forgotten someone's name?
And they're
like,
young.
And I've just such an association with him of being like
Downton Abbey for me.
Paddington, and then you see him. Well, no, he kind of slays in Paddington, actually, I will say. But then I saw him kind of there. I was like, oh, Bernie. And there was something about the whole like that he didn't have a clue. He didn't cop who she was
he
initially.
He hasn't a notion who she is, and he's asking her what she does for a living, and she's saying I'm an actress, and he's saying, oh, the wages are a scandal for actors. Some of my mates only make $8,000 a year, and she's like, And apparently when he says to her, how much did you make in your last movie, she kept changing the number. So she started with 5 million and went up to $15 million, and apparently that was what she was paid for Notting Hill. And she said that because she said she was getting sick of lowballing.
I love that.
I love that. She's just
I believe that as well. Yeah,
$15 million. And he's like, oh, okay. But he doesn't realise she's Anna Scott until basically the end of
someone
dinner.
has to tell. Yeah, it's like...
But it looks like a really nice dinner. Now, the poor character of Bella, her and Max are Hugh Grant's best friends, and she used to go out with Hugh Grant, I believe.
Oh, or I didn't know this.
He was in love with her. The character, he was in love with her because he does say
sorry, I thought you meant real life. I was like, what?
He dated everyone, who knows? But Bella, like, she's been in an accident, she's in a wheelchair, but then they make her say at dinner that she can't have babies because of it, and it's just really stark. You're like, but then as the film goes on, Bella and Max clearly have an amazing relationship, and you can see them at some points looking at each other and holding hands and being like, we're so lucky because he's so unlucky in love.
Yeah.
At least we have each other.
I will say one of the other reasons why I like this film so much is that the other characters are like fair, like
they're great.
You know, especially with rom-coms, like you have this thing of like, you know, you'll have your Judy Greer characters where it's like they're there and they're like placeholders, whatever, and you know they're the best friend, but like nothing beyond it.
Friend of.
Yeah, it's giving friend of.
Yeah.
But you don't really know anything about them, whatever. And look, a lot of the time you don't need to know about them because you're focusing on the couple or whatever else. But it was so nice about this to have that like interiority and get into them and see how their friendships. It's not heavy-handed though either. And
you know, she's a barrister because of one tiny moment where she's like going out to work, and otherwise like they're not laying it on thick like this is my friend Bella, she's a barrister. It's all very nuanced. It's very well done,
and it's very believable as their like friend group, and their friend group you'd want to be out with at dinner with.
And there's a montage later on where he's trying to forget about Anna and they're all trying to introduce him to other women, and the women are just so weird and annoying, and you're just like, oh my god, you know, first of all, how could he replace Anna Scott, and second of all, these women like drips, like you need to be able to fit into fruitarian. You need to be able to fit into this friend group, and then eventually
they seem like good crack.
They do, and eventually they bring him a perfect woman played by Emily Mortimer. Briefly, like she's in it for like 30 seconds, but she's not good enough. Even though she, you know, if he'd never met Anna, she would be, but nobody can live up to Anna. So Anna kind of toys with him. right? It's kind of a cat and mouse game. He's the gobshite. It turns out she has a boyfriend played brilliantly by Alec Baldwin. Again, scene stealer.
Again,
right. Oh no, he's a ride.
Hot.
Oh, Alec Baldwin's always a ride to me. Jack Donaghy, I fancy deeply.
Jack Donaghy.
Deeply. But he plays this prick who's like, he's basically clicking at her and clicking at him, and he calls her fat. He said, don't eat too much, you'll get fat. And as with a lot of 90s and noughties rom-coms, there's loads of stupid fat jokes and fat shaming throughout. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. But Richard Curtis has said that he feels bad about all of it now, and while it was of its time, he said those jokes are just no longer funny. And he also regrets the lack of diversity, because Notting Hill is known for being very racially and culturally diverse.
Yeah, that is something when you're watching it, you're like, this is not the Notting Hill I know of from even other media and like the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, he says, look, I wish I'd been ahead of the curve, but I came from a very undiverse school, and my bunch of university friends, we weren't very diverse, and I think that I've hung on the diversity issue to the feeling that I wouldn't know how to write those parts, but I think now that I was just stupid and wrong about that. So there's some learning from Richard. He said his daughter basically gave out shite to him and was like, you can't say fat anymore in your films, because Bridget Jones and Four Weddings, they talk about weight quite a lot. Yeah. So of its time, but no place nowadays. Yeah. But Hugh and Julia are only 32. She's 32 and he's 39 in this film. Okay. It's kind of older than you'd think but I guess he's been divorced, so he would be around that age. I still didn't think he was,
God, I wouldn't have put him at that old
39,
either, though. Yeah.
I mean, he looks, I think he just has a young face. Yeah. But you know, he is so perfect in this role because his diction is so perfect. He reads these lines like he's delivering Shakespeare.
Yeah, truly.
Like, his dialogue is just, he's goofy, but he's chivalrous, but his dialogue is crisp. Yeah. And so British, and a stiff upper lip, that it kind of elevates the script, I think.
100%.
But he's basically moping then, right? Yeah. Because she's fecked off with her boyfriend, Alec Baldwin. But she comes back in her hour of need because nudie pictures of her have been published in the newspapers. Why would she be like, I'm going to go back to that fella in Notting Hill? I don't know.
It does go back to the thing again of him seeing her for who she quote unquote really is. Yeah. And like, you know, she'd gone there for solace before, bizarrely, when things got spilt on her shirt and stuff. Was it again? And you know, like in
didn't
that
get murdered.
Didn't get murdered. So she was like, okay, cool, 10 out of 10 on TripAdvisor. So was it a thing of then she was like, okay, I need, do you know in the moment of madness where they kissed? Yeah. So then it was like another moment of madness where it was like, well, I can't go to my hunky American ex-boyfriend because he's essentially an asshole. Yeah. I need to go to the only person that understands me. People won't kind of suspect I'm here. Yeah. Probably off I go.
And she was about to ride Hugh Grant before Alec Baldwin.
That again.
So she was going to cheat on her American boyfriend with him.
But you know what? I love how kind of like slow burn their relationship was, because it kind of seemed like it was, you know, you were going to head that way, and then they're outside the hotel and she's like, do you want to come up? And he's like, I don't know if that's a good idea or whatever he says. And then she's like, yeah, probably not. Do you want to come up? And you're like, I'm like gnawing at my hands at that point. I'm like, yes. And then they get up to the hotel room and I'm like, get out of here, Alec Baldwin.
Or else join in.
Yes.
One or the other.
Dream third. Absolutely.
I'm ready for some sex at this point of the film, and someone better give it to me. Truly. But it does come soon enough, because when she goes to him for solace, you know, they end up doing the bold thing, and it sounds great. She actually creeps down in the night to where he's chivalrously sleeping on the sofa wearing his shirt, and he takes it off her. It's beautiful. Oh. Like at that point, you are absolutely gagging for it. Yeah. So it has to happen, and
I just think it's so well paced. If you compare it to any other, like it's such an issue now with even modern day rom-coms and modern day films in general, where pacing is such an issue.
Absolutely.
It's
so gappy in
gappy, or like it's so speedy at the start or too speedy at the end,
or they have to put like TikTok videos in it to make it seem relevant.
Yeah, like, or it's too slow, because with streaming people know you're like double screening and you have the phone and whatever. It's like perfection.
It is. But poor Al Hugh gets dumped again because she thinks that he's called the paps on her, because in an iconic moment he goes down to get the paper and the milk and there's 50 paparazzi outside.
Why did she think that? Like,
Spike did tell the paparazzi that she was there.
But like, why would she think it was him? You and know, based vicious. On like this journey that they've been on together. You know, he doesn't come across like that.
I think she just doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah, true.
And she's like, this is probably too good to be true. Like, it must have been him. Because I think that's where my mind would go. I'd be like, this fucker, I trusted him, and the paparazzi are outside. Yeah. So he's devastated because she's flounced off in a rage, Spike is responsible, so he does feel guilty about it. But Spike didn't mean to. He just told someone down the pub that she was there. And basically there's this amazing montage then of Hugh moping around Notting Hill, and the weather changes. It's beautiful. The song is Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers. Yeah. And the weather literally changes from autumn to December, Christmas time, to winter, deep winter to spring. And it's just absolutely gorgeous.
I feel like that scene has influenced so many other films. Have you seen Twilight?
Oh, of course.
Or the second Twilight, New Moon, where Edward pisses off and Bella sits in her room for like 2 months and the seasons change around her, and it's just a camera going around Kristen Stewart and she's like just depressed looking.
I mean, it's a great way to signify the passing of time.
Absolutely.
There's even a pregnant woman who's had her baby by the end of the montage.
I forgot about that. That's so funny.
It's so good. But he's still moping.
Yeah.
Like he's that devastated by all of this. And then he meets his friends for lunch and he says, look, I'm sorry I've been a miserable prick for the past while. I've decided to move on and forget about the American. They call her the American. And then his mate says, well, she's here filming. Did you know that? And he's like, my interest is piqued. So he decides that he's going to go and see her and kind of have it out with her. He gets there, she's doing a film that he basically recommended. He told her that she should do a Henry James film and not like another sci-fi silly film. And he's kind of thrilled that she's doing it. But he's allowed to listen in and he hears her kind of dismissing him. And he's heartbroken again.
Killer.
I mean, poor William Thacker. His heart gets broken many, many times in this film.
Yeah.
And it's unusual to see the man being the one that's kind of strung along, I think.
And her whole argument for that, it was trying to maintain your privacy and all that jazz. It was just like, no.
But pretty quickly, she comes back.
Yeah.
She comes crawling back. And she comes back to the bookshop where they first met. And she's dressed like a normie. Like there's not an air of Hollywood about her. And she's standing in front of him, which she says, and she said, I'm just a girl standing in front of a guy asking him to love her. And he's like, no, you're grand. Bye. Yeah. He's like, sorry, we're too different. And then he's like, classic Hugh Grant, oh, bugger. Like, I'm a fucking idiot. So there ensues a big chase, which I love. And they do a chase in Four Weddings as well.
Yeah.
And in Bridget Jones. There's always scenes in Richard Curtis films where they're all packed into a tiny car, like the friends, and they're like a Greek chorus egging them on.
Yeah.
Like. But this culminates in another rom-com trope, which is a press conference. There are press conferences in many a rom-com. Springs to mind You've Got Mail, straight off the top of my head. There is one in Jerry Maguire as well, but it's smaller. But like he basically has to profess his love in front of an audience.
Yeah, huge public display of affection. Yeah.
But he doesn't quite get the chance, and then he does get the chance. And I think the ending is really good. What do you think?
It's perfect. It's so good.
It is.
It's just so romantic, the whole thing of like them being kept apart and whether they knew whether they wanted to be with each other, and her being like, no, I'm in the UK now indefinitely, like this is what's brought me here. Yeah, he's my anchor.
So he's been asked he asks her a question as a journalist, essentially. Now this is the part where I start to fancy Hugh Grant. Now this could say something about me fancying journalists.
Maybe.
Perhaps. But he's wearing a pink shirt and he looks very particularly foppish.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, would you forgive me, basically? Would you forgive William Thacker for being an owl fucking idiot? And she says, yes, I would. And how long are you staying in the UK, Miss Scott? Indefinitely. So it's literally like they don't touch, they don't kiss. They're standing across the room from each other.
But the longing is
palpable.
Electric.
And he's beaming at her from across the room. And then everyone cops that it's him from the front doorstep. And they're all, because those pictures are obviously plastered everywhere, and everybody in the room is copying what's happening, but they're just sitting there smiling at each other.
It's very Taylor and Travis.
It is very Taylor and Travis. That's true. Now, let's talk about the music, because it's amazing. So we've talked about She by Elvis Costello and Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers. Richard Curtis is particularly good at picking music for films. He demonstrates this in Bridget Jones with It's Raining Men as Hugh and Colin Firth's fight in the street.
Yep.
And Love Actually. Like, he's excellent at it. He has some great charming 90s pop in this. There's Shania Twain, there's 98 Degrees, there's Another Level. Like, take me back. But the big song is our very own Ronan Keating, When You Say Nothing at All.
And it's so good. It does work. Like,
amazing.
Yeah.
I think I fell in love. My first love. I think we fell in love slow dancing to When You Say Nothing at All.
Oh my God.
At a French disco. Yeah. In 2001. Yeah. It was such an iconic song. And I remember even then being thrilled that he was Irish.
Yeah.
I was like, go on, Ronan,
just
you
so
buy it.
patriotic.
Yeah. But it's a fucking great song. It is.
It is. And I feel like I know people kind of disparage Ronan and that song in particular. And I'm just like, no, like it is a banger.
No, it's an absolute banger. Like, disparage life is a roller coaster all you want.
No, actually, I won't disparage that either.
Would you not?
Banger.
Okay. This one's
Loving
my
Each
banger.
Day. Classic.
Oh, he did have some bangers.
Baby, I want you right here next to me.
He did
So
a
good.
cover of She Moves Through the Fair.
Oh, yeah.
He's very eclectic.
Yeah.
Sarah Ronan. Fair play to him. There's also some amazing quotes. Like the whole script is littered with incredible one-liners. So one of the ones that they keep coming back to is when William meets Anna and he said, it was nice meeting you. Surreal, but nice. And she keeps throwing that back to him.
I love when she does that in the
half
junket.
morto for him as well. Like, it is also just about the babbling awkwardness a lot, but there's amazing. Like he says, your Horse and Hound's favourite actress, you and Black Beauty. Amazing.
It's very funny.
It is very funny.
I think sometimes the romantic comedies struggle to kind of
With the
straddle the
comedy.
balance of the romantic and the comedy.
Yeah.
And this is like genuine. I'm still laughing at this again, even though I've seen it before, even though it's from 1999. It's funny. It's got bars.
But even he calls her a bitch. He just goes bitch at one point, like messing, but it's so brilliantly delivered. And like somebody calls him you say you daft prick, or he says like, oh holy fuck at one point, and it's just so quintessentially Hugh Grant.
Yeah, it's just the playfulness and the clumsiness of them initially kind of they're falling in love and they're trying to figure it out, but it's this massive like
block
obstacle between them where it's like she is literally an A-lister and you are some fella from down the road who slogs books, you know
which
what I mean?
love. And to me that's a really interesting thing in pop culture at the moment, like that recent Anne Hathaway film, The Idea of You.
Oh my God, don't talk to me about that. Don't mention that because we will never leave this room.
Okay, right, maybe that's another
5 stars,
episode.
5 stars, 5 stars.
We'll do a follow up on that next
Have you seen
season.
it?
Of course I have. Fringe is magnificent, majestic. Didn't really fancy your man, but we'll get into that again.
I didn't before that film. We'll talk about it
another time. But that's kind of hot right now, is this like famous normie thing.
Yeah.
Whereas back I don't remember a film talking about
I'm trying to think
before.
of another example. Yeah, that's definitely the most recent example where I feel like it 100% works.
Like,
it's a little bit silly again, where it's like he's a Harry Styles-esque character.
Yes.
But like, whatever, I love it. Like,
and I don't know, I feel like I'm just laughing here at my notes. At one point he says shittity brickety. It's just so Hugh Grant. Shittity brickety. And at one point he says, do you know what happens to mortals that get involved with the gods? And I'm just like, Jesus. He also says at one point, all that awaits me at home is a masturbating Welshman. Like, it's very evocative.
Oh,
very.
Spike.
And he says to her, this is the bit that really got me. I think it actually made me cry this time. He said, she's like, oh, men go to bed with the A-lister and wake up with me. He says, you are lovelier this morning than you've ever been. Oh. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Beautiful.
I think it's a testament to the script as well, how often like those lines go viral on TikTok now. Like there's so many, even the tempting but no. Like that was a big soundbite on TikTok for a while. Obviously, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy.
Yeah.
Like that, again, that crystallized moment of like why you're watching this film and why you buy into the two of them and why you're fundamentally rooting for them.
Yeah. And like, even though they have this massive obstacle between them, I'm like, you can overcome it.
Yeah.
Like, don't be so silly.
Yeah.
She says to him at one point, she's just like, that we can't kind of overcome this fame. And he's like, why? And then he learns why, but then they do get back together in the end, and it's perfect because you see him then to the very end after the press conference, which is almost as good as like a rush to the airport storyline.
Yeah,
I love a rush to the airport.
I love a rush to the airport,
but a rush to a press conference is glam.
Yeah.
So anyway, they get together and he's made his declaration in front of the audience, and then you see there's a nice montage of them just like hanging out. So he's going to her premieres. So at the beginning we see her alone on the red carpet, and at the end she's with him, and he's getting out of the limo all awkward, and I think he trips at one point, and she's like,
bumbling,
stupid
classic.
non-famous boyfriend. And
I
then
love my oafy boyfriend.
And then at the very end she's pregnant, and they're in the park that they once visited together, and she has her legs up on him, and you just feel like they've figured it out. They know how to do it. This
so
pair,
sweet,
so sweet,
and you know they're just so happy and so content and so fulfilled, and it's all she ever wanted.
And you feel like, do you think they're still together?
Yeah, 100%.
I think so too. I think that they've overcome.
I'd say they've had maybe a few blazing rows, like, but I'd say they're fine.
I'd say maybe
they're always able to come back to each other.
Maybe came close to riding a co-star at one point.
Maybe, yeah.
I can see that. Well, Fionnuala, thank you so much. That's been
thank you,
fantastic.
What a joy.
And I could talk to you for literal hours.
Yeah.
So you have to come back and we'll do The Idea of You.
Please.
And what can we expect next from Flop Culture? Are you going on tour?
We're going on tour,
Woo!
Yes. If tour constitutes 2 days in Dublin and Cork, which it does to me.
It's like your wedding.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. We are playing the Laughter Lounge. That's November 14th. There are still tickets available for that from laughterlounge.com. And we're also playing the Triskel Arts Centre in Cork.
Fabulous.
And that's triskelarts.ie or some variation of that URL.
This means that you can refer to your wedding as the tour now as well.
Yes.
I think. Yeah, I think so. Brilliant.
Oh my God. Don't give me ideas. Okay, don't give me ideas.
You can sell merch.
Again, don't. Well, I'm going to have to fund the wedding somehow. Jesus Christ.
There you go. So, Fionnuala, how many cheesy popcorns out of 5 would you give Notting Hill?
Oh, 5. 5 and a half. We're off the scale of
Can we give it 10 cheesy popcorns?
Yeah.
The cheesier the better?
100 Gouda, cheddar, whatever.
Parmesan.
Parmesan grated on.
Perfect.
It's perfect. I won't have an argument against it.
No, me neither. Thank you so much.